Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. The suspension spree has continued in Parliament. Today, 49 more MPs were suspended just from Lok Sabha for disrupting business and for protesting in the well of the House with placards in hand. With this, the total number of suspended MPs in both the Houses of Parliament has now jumped to a whopping 141. Congress claims that the complete purge is executed to bulldoze draconian bills without any meaningful debate and let the BJP MP who facilitated the intruders into Parliament go scot-free. But while the opposition tried to pin the government over these mass suspensions, there was also embarrassment for them. When TMC MP Kalyan Banerjee was seen mimicking Rajya Sabha Chairman Jagdeep Dhankar, this happened when suspended parliamentarians were staging a protest at Parliament's doorstep and other MPs were caught filming him and laughing at this act. That certainly has not gone in their favour. Meanwhile, earlier today, Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed BJP MPs at the Parliamentary Party meeting and told them not to get shaken by the theatrics of the opposition. So, does that mean the government is not going to back down despite the optics being terrible for them too? Who exactly is responsible for the situation? Who exactly is to blame? We'll take that question to our guests in just a bit. Now, first, let me break down the suspensions of the MPs that has taken place today and how this week or the last few days have panned out for the sessions. This is of course the number from Lok Sabha on December 14, last week, a day after the intrusion on December 13 took place in Parliament. 13 MPs from Lok Sabha were suspended, and the next week, that is December 18 on Monday, 33 more from Lok Sabha, and today a whopping 49 together. That of course takes the number to an unprecedented level. From Rajya Sabha as well, on the first day there was only one suspension from Rajya Sabha, which was of Derek O'Brien, and then yesterday 45 Rajya Sabha MPs were suspended. Let me just break down what this means for the opposition strength in Parliament. In Lok Sabha, as many as 71% of the India bloc MPs have now been suspended. So out of their 133, 95 MPs from Lok Sabha have been suspended. That's a percentage of 71%, nearly 3/4. From Rajya Sabha, the percentage is nearly 50%. Out of their strength of 95, 46 now stand suspended. So if we look at it overall from both houses, over 50% of the opposition numbers have been suspended. Their strength has been halved or less. As shocking is the suspension spree, equally shocking, as I mentioned, was the TMC MP Kalyan Banerjee seen mimicking Rajya Sabha Chairman Jagdeep Dhankar as suspended MPs were protesting. In the same video, Rahul Gandhi was seen filming Kalyan Banerjee. Vice President Dhankar, who's the RS chair, slammed the Congress and the larger opposition for this behaviour. I want to point out what he said on the floor of the House earlier today. He said this response, which is the act of Banerjee mimicking him and mocking him, is against this institution, and with this act we've seen the lowest level ever. He goes on to point out to a senior Congress leader that another senior Congress leader was seen videographing an MP mocking the chair. He's of course talking about Rahul Gandhi doing that when Kalyan Banerjee was seen mimicking the RS chair. Chairman has been ravaged. The institution of the chairman has been ravaged. His chair has been insulted, that too by a political party. He also goes on to point out specifically to the Congress party, possibly because it's the oldest party in India and has been in power the most, that Congress put out a video on Instagram from their handle, which they later withdrew. Also the fact that one of their official spokespersons tweeted the video on X, the other social media platform. He says, "I was insulted. My background was insulted. As a farmer and a Jat, my position has been insulted." Those are some very strong words coming in. We have to wait and see if the opposition will at least express regret on what has transpired on this instance. But the larger question we ask is simply this: more than half of the opposition is now standing suspended. Who is to blame for this ruckus?
देश के इतिहास में पहली बार है कि आज कितने लोगों को उन्होंने सस्पेंड किया ये डेमोक्रेसी के लिए अच्छा नहीं है, ये डराने की बात हो गई है।
पुलिस किसके हाथ में है? होम मिनिस्ट्री के नीचे है। तो क्या हो जाता अगर वो 5 मिनट आते और कहते जनाब ये हो गया है, हम इस पर कार्रवाई कर रहे हैं।
मैं तो यही कह सकता हूं, सद्बुद्धि आए, कुछ तो सीमा होती होगी।
ये जो ब्लॉक कर रहे हैं, जो अवरोध पैदा कर रहे हैं, ये उनकी हताशा है 3 प्रदेशों में हार के कारण।
Hello, Moto.
First up, I want to go across to Pradyut Bordolai, one of the suspended Congress MPs from Lok Sabha, joining us on Plain Speak. We've seen what has transpired in Parliament over the last 3 to 4 days, since last week. Now, the charge by the government is that the opposition is behaving deliberately to cause this disruption. Even senior members are doing so. They're bringing placards, which is against the rule. So the government has no option but to act, or the chair has no option but to act. How would you respond to that?
Number one, we all know the Indian Constitution has also recognized that Parliament is the forum for debate, discussion and plea for region. And that is why we have been chosen by the people of India to represent their aspirations and reflect their opinion in this highest temple of democracy. Now see this is the height of hypocrisy. And it's a betrayal of the trust of the people. I would just remind you, when the present Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, first time became the Prime Minister after enjoying the confidence of the Parliament of India as the leader of the House, when he entered into the Parliament, on the threshold, he prostrated himself and then said that this is the highest temple of democracy. And look what he has been doing. This government enjoys the support of the Parliament. If one is a Prime Minister, if one is a Home Minister, because this government enjoys the support of confidence of this House.
Right.
Now this very House, the highest temple of democracy, has been under attack. First time it happened in 2001 in the BJP rule that time. And again after long 22 years in the same BJP rule, when the Parliament has been attacked, and then we wanted from opposition that the Home Minister or the Prime Minister should come to the House, take the people of India into confidence by addressing or coming to the Parliament. All we wanted, the Honorable Home Minister should be present in the House and give a statement. We have right to know.
Okay.
Because we reflect and we represent the people of India. And this has been denied. And see the hypocrisy. From 13th of December when attack did take place, both the Prime Minister and the Home Minister have been staying away from the Parliament. And then this is what really perturbed us. It's very regrettable that both the Prime Minister and the Home Minister have chosen to say things outside the Parliament in front of media, but they didn't have the courage to come to the Parliament and say.
Okay, I'll come to the question of the demands that you're making in just a second, but I should add that this is not the only second time since 2001 that Parliament has faced an attack. Intrusions of the kind we saw on December 13 have happened in the past, so I think it's important to put that in context. But what has also happened, Pradyut, before I come back to your conduct and the demands you're making, we've seen these videos of TMC MP, your colleague Kalyan Banerjee, imitating the Rajya Sabha chair, who's also the Vice President of the country. Now, is this the kind of behavior that will be condoned? Does this behoove the opposition? That's also a question the opposition will be asked.
No, we have precedents. Not that I want to justify the action of one of my colleagues from the opposition. But outside the parliament, it happens in a lighter vein. Probably why even the prime minister also mocks other people. The prime minister also on various occasions did mock the honorable members of the opposition in election meetings and all. But at the same time, the same vein, I wouldn't like to justify that, whatever has happened. The high offices of the parliament, the democracy, should be given due honor.
Yeah, exactly. The government is saying that there is no denying from them that the statement will not be made. It will be made at an opportune time or the right time as the government deems fit. Other members of parliament have spoken from the treasury benches, and they say that the opposition has a track record, that they demand this is what we want, this is the time we want, this is the day and by this person, and nothing else will be accepted. So this is deliberate disruption.
Shivani, I want to ask you something. What did the opposition say when the attack on the highest temple of democracy, on the parliament, was mounted or there was attack? We wanted that government should come to the house. Either the prime minister or the home minister should give a statement that this is what has happened. We didn't want the answer. We didn't want the logical conclusion as to who were behind it. We know that things are under inquiry, but at least the prime minister or the home minister should have, they are duty bound. And all we reminded that this is your duty to come to the parliament to say something.
Okay.
But they have been evading. They were just shying away. They were just, trying to evade the parliament. This is what actually perturbed us, and this is what we demanded.
You've used that a couple of times, that this is what has perturbed the opposition. So I come back to your actions. Do your actions, the means that you're employing, justify the end of getting a statement from the government? As you are saying, the government is also saying that there are precedences to these kind of intrusions. They've happened through the 60s, 70s, 80s, up till the 90s. And it is the speaker who took charge of the situation. At that time, these statements were not demanded from the government. So why is the opposition hell-bent on it now?
Shivani, I want to also remind you, all these people who are saying this. In 1962, when there was Chinese incursion, when Chinese attacked India, in the parliament, it is all there on record. The opposition members, including late Atal Bihari Vajpayee, demanded that there should be a special parliament session. And what did the then Prime Minister did, Pandit Nehru? Immediately convened a special session. And 1 week debate and discussion, every member was given chance to speak, and the Prime Minister and the government of the day explained and gave the status. Blow by blow account was given. That is democracy. Why are they trying to wipe out that excellent traditions of democracy? What we wanted, that this parliament was under attack, and entire government, the entire constitutional institutions are based on this parliament. So parliament is under attack, and it's a grave thing to have happened.
I understand
All we wanted the home minister's presence and reassure the members. This is what, nothing more than that. But instead of that, they were evading, and honorable speaker has been trying to, carry forward the agenda of the government. That's it.
I understand what you're saying, but you've compared what I asked you about this intrusion to China intruding into the country and to a state of war. So I leave it there. Pradyut Bordalai, I do appreciate you joining us at the top here on Plain Speak. Let's also open this up to our other guests joining us. Shazia Ilmi, national spokesperson of the BJP, Mahima Singh from the Congress party, Nirva Mehta is editor-in-chief, The Pamphlet, and Professor Manojit Mandal, political analyst, is also joining us. Manojit Mandal, why don't I begin with you? You must have heard what the Congress suspended member of parliament said, that there is no justifying the act of Kalyan Banerjee. I want to understand from you, shouldn't there be some sort of expression of regret from the opposition at large, particularly the MP concerned, for his behavior? Or is this also okay?
This is amazing. I mean, you suspended 100 plus MPs and they are sitting in the cold trying to cheer themselves up, and that becomes an issue for you. This is amazing.
Is it not an issue? Mimicking and mocking the Rajya Sabha chair? He's also the vice president of the country.
when you call someone Shurpanakha inside the parliament, none other than the Prime Minister, when he called someone Shurpanakha ki hasi ki yaad aa gayi, did you condemn the Prime Minister's action?
You're comparing this to what two politicians or parliamentarians may have said against each other. The reason I am not comparing this to that. One second, Manojit Mandal, I'll allow you to complete. I'll allow you to complete. But the reason why I don't think that's a fit analogy to give is because this is not any other member of parliament. This is the vice president of the country and also the chair of the house. It's not the same as two parliamentarians speaking to each other.
And this was, you can't compare simply because of the fact that this was not happening inside the parliament. This was happening in an extraordinary situation when you suspended 140 plus MPs without any rhyme and reason for raising the right questions. And let me make this charge now, and which I have been making this for the last 3-4 days, that there could have been some method in the madness. Who is behind the attack on the parliament? Were BJP trying to come to this so that they could pass the bills without any opposition? I am raising these suspicions in front of my nation, which is still, I think, quite vibrant and dynamic.
Okay.
Can I come in, please?
Force take over.
Yeah, I suspected the BJP would want to respond to that.
Yes, Shivani,
One second, Shahja, 1 second. I don't want both of you speaking over each other. So, Manojit Mandal, you've made your point. Can you please yield the floor now?
You are suspending them for the entire session.
Are you done?
There must be
After
some
having
method in the
repeated the
madness.
same
Okay,
point
method in the madness.
ad
Shahja, will you
nauseam,
please respond? He's making a very
Yes,
serious charge.
So first of all, I'm shocked to hear from somebody who calls himself an analyst, who's a TMC spokesperson, who I'm sure has had basic education, if not necessarily in the study of constitutional propriety, but basic civics, that the office of the chairman or the vice president is as a non-partisan one, and that you do not mimic or offend or mock or use with such disdain expressions and gestures as have been used today. Not just that, while this was being done by a senior member of the TMC, the party which Mr. Mandal represents, it's a matter of great shame that there was someone else, the Mohabbat Ki Dukaan fellow called Rahul Gandhi, who was busy making, using it as entertainment and making videos of the same.
Shame
That's one thing. Second answer to what you talked about was...
One by one, please. One second, one by one. I don't want you speaking over each other. 1 second, can I just come in? Can I just come in? 1 second, Manojit Mandal, I'll give you your time, but please wait for your turn.
How you should conduct yourself.
Shahja,
Conduct yourself. But the matter of the... Yes, Shivani.
No, you wanted to address what he said. He's charging the government or the powers that be in charge today of somehow conniving and conducting this attack on Parliament.
I think it's a contrary. I think, as is very obvious from the picture seen of the criminals / miscreants / protesters / Andolan GVs, that they are very close friends with Tapas Roy and of Rahul Gandhi. So I feel this is a ploy by the opposition to create pandemonium and unrest, knowing very well there's a rule number 373 and 374 asking for suspension, ensuring. I think this is a ploy made by together. All of them, it just shows utter helplessness and bankruptcy of these parties who've come together as a pre-orchestrated, rehearsed and pre-planned and fabricated ploy to bring the parliament to a halt, to work against the country and therefore disrupt what is happening in the parliament.
I think it is best we don't float any conspiracy theories as to what could have been the motive or who could have been behind the attack. I think that much seriousness we can display as far as the intrusion in Parliament is concerned. So I don't want to waste any more time on that. I want to go across to Mahima Singh also. Mahima Singh, the India bloc parties are meeting right now. We'll of course wait to hear from them shortly. But there is a point of, a huge point of conversion for the opposition, it seems, because of what has transpired over the last few months. One was the Maua suspension episode or the expulsion episode. Now it's the suspension of as many as 141 MPs. But is the opposition being able to send its message across appropriately, accurately by doing this standoff in Parliament?
Jai Hind. One is, Shivani, that while listening into the BJP spokesperson and the whole discourse on this debate, I was wondering, are we living in a monarchy or a democracy? I think we're living in a democracy wherein, yes, the vice president happens to be a constitutional office, but he also happens to be a fellow citizen. The president of India is the first citizen. And hearing such remarks from the spokesperson of a party who's one of the senior leaders, Smriti Irani, presented bangers to the then sitting Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh is very unbecoming. So I don't welcome that, and I think such a debate should be condemned at the very outset. Number two is that you see, as Dr. Ambedkar had said, Shivani, coming to your question, what you had asked me, Dr. Ambedkar had rightfully said that it is not the constitution on its own that is good or bad. It is those who are called to work upon it that make it in their own interpretation of that. Today, the BJP's actions, 141 MPs being ousted of the house. It's not only those 141 individuals. It is crores and crores of Indian voices that these MPs represent on the floor of the house that have been shunned, snubbed, muzzled, ousted of that temple of democracy. So I think while the BJP needs to be reminded of the fact that we live in a democracy, the BJP spokesperson who was just talking of separation of powers must be reminded that it is the very BJP who is actually, putting these separation of powers, the constitutional principles.
Okay, one second. Maimaji, one second. I have a follow-up to ask you. First of all, I don't think the Prime Minister, which is a chosen political representative, and the President or the Vice President can be compared. They are not the same positions. Secondly, when the President and the Vice President occupy that position, they cease to be political political positions. The Prime Minister is still very much a political position. That's why current Prime Minister also gets attacked all the time, right? But we don't really see this in our democracy or in our, in the ways we've seen our politicians behave against the current President or Vice President. So I think it's important to draw that distinction. But I want to...
Are you saying...
are
you saying
I've said what I'm saying.
The Constitution is saying it. The basic civics books are saying it.
Yes, Maimaji. One by one, please. One by one. Manojit Mandalji, please don't start over everybody else too. One by one, please. Let Maimaji make her intervention for 30 seconds, and then I have a follow-up for her very quickly. Yes, Maimaji.
Yeah, you see, you are making it sound as if the Vice President of India is some sacrosanct entity, which he is not. He's a chosen representative.
I didn't say that. I'm saying you can't compare the Prime Minister's position and the President's position.
Please allow me to complete. See, when Narendra Modi ji hurls some slurs at, you conduct a debate. But you did not conduct a debate when Dr. Manmohan Singh. Today you are comparing it.
How do you know I did not conduct the debate? But Prime Minister Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister last in 2014.
The hypocrisy. The hypocrisy is, I thought...
No, now you're changing the goalpost. One second. Ladies, I request you to please calm down. One second. Maimaji, I think I got the gist of what the argument you're making. One by one, please. Shazia ji, one by one. Otherwise, I'll have to mute.
This is very basic stuff, but I don't...
Shazia and Maimaji, please, 1 second. 1 second. I think I got the point Maima was making. Maima, you can compare an attack on a Prime Minister to another Prime Minister. I was only saying, can you just lower their volumes? I was just saying that do not compare the Prime Minister's position to the President and Vice President. They are two different types of positions. A Prime Minister attack versus a Prime Minister attack, surely you can compare. But anyways, my question to you, what I wanted to ask you was, just this, have you been, the opposition has been asked in the past, for example, what it did in the case of Manipur, what has happened in the case of, Rafale in the past, or that Pegasus issue. Every time a session starts, you have some issue on which there is disruption that happens. What eventually happens is that you go out of, you either walk out or you are suspended. And then there is no opposition in parliament, and in the past also some critique of the opposition tactics have happened, that it is better for you to be inside the house and hold the government accountable and responsible instead of causing these disruptions and nothing happens. Very quickly, Maimaji.
Won't you remind Shivani or your viewers also of the 2010 winter session when the country saw its worst opposition protests with the BJP protesting in the winter session. The whole winter session was wiped out. Mr. Arun Jaitley ji justified such noise and ruckus in the parliament, you would remember. And so today, when you are asking us that question, I think the viewers of this show and the citizens of this country need to be reminded that what the opposition is demanding today is a plain statement of the executive of the government, because we wouldn't wait for the whole government to be wiped out. What if there was something more sinister, something more poisonous in those canisters, but not just those the colored gas? So you see,
okay, I get your point. I think the seriousness of the issue has not been
reached.
The seriousness of this intrusion cannot be understated. That is a given, and I'm very much with you on that.
But it is being trivialized by the BJP.
Okay, I take your point. Shazia will respond to that. Nirva Mehta has not spoken. I want to go across to her. And Nirva, my question is exactly this. You see, the India Bloc meeting is currently taking place. I'm also getting some updates from that meeting. Very shortly, we'll be playing that out. Is the opposition being able to fundamentally send across the message that this government is dictatorial? Look at what's happened. One day after such an important intrusion in parliament takes place, what is the government's response? The government's response is to be extremely this thing that, no home minister will not speak, no prime minister will not speak, we will speak when we want to speak, when we deem it fit, and instead they are suspending as many as 141 opposition MPs. Is the optics worse for the government, or is it worse for the opposition today?
I feel it is worse for the opposition today, because the government will speak when they have more information and when they have things to talk about. Once the inquiry is done, once they have some reports and all ready. Secondly, this winter session, the suspension of MPs, it shouldn't be seen in isolation. This has a very strong point in democracy is a strong government and a strong opposition. Here we do not have a very constructive opposition. Anytime there is some debate happening, the opposition will have a walkout. They will just jump into the well and tear up pages. Then it's always a ruckus in the parliament. There are so many times the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha suspended because of ruckus by the MPs. This has happened in previous governments as well, which is not to justify that what they did was right, what they are doing is wrong. Having said that, even in monsoon session, for example, Sanjay Singh, he created a ruckus as well. Last year, he tore up papers in the parliament. Raghav Chadha was accused of forging signatures. All these things, they add up to it. These are the things the opposition MPs are accused of. They have been constantly creating a ruckus. Eventually, it's always my way or the highway. I want the Home Minister to give a statement.
What is ruckus? Asking question is a ruckus for you, madam?
No.
Simply asking the Home Minister to calm, Home Minister to calm and make a statement.
The rules of the House are supposed to have some unruly behavior is ruckus.
Heaven fall if the Home Minister calms and makes a
What you are doing, misbehaving, despite repeated insistence from the speaker is ruckus.
Okay, Nirva didn't interrupt anybody.
Is ruckus.
Can I just request Manojit Mandal, Nirva didn't interrupt anybody. She waited patiently for her turn. At least allow her to finish. You've made your point. You're saying asking questions is not ruckus. Just respond. Just listen to her response. In the spirit of debate and democracy, listen to her response. Yes, Nirva, please finish.
Yeah. So asking question is not ruckus, but what he did right now is kind of ruckus. You talk over me. That is ruckus. You're disrupting my conversation right now. That is ruckus.
Arey, she didn't interrupt you. Why are you taking it out on her? She didn't interrupt you. Come on.
What is the pamphleteer all about? I want to understand.
No, that's not your concern, Manojit Mandal. That's not your concern. Whatever your problems with her is. But she did not speak over you. She did not. What do you mean you're giving her a taste of her medicine? She didn't interrupt you at all. You can disagree with her. That doesn't mean that you will interrupt her. You don't have to like what she is saying. That's exactly the point of democracy and debate. Let's have Nirva. I'm going to give her 20 seconds. You can't oppose who else is there on the show. I'm sorry, that's not your domain. Nirva.
All right. Okay. So as I was saying, I think what has happened right now cannot be seen in isolation. It has been a regular thing in the parliament. and which is why I think the MPs really need to, the opposition MPs especially, for a democracy, they need to work together with the government, make them stand accountable instead of just walkouts and
Yeah.
not having anything up for debate.
Okay, the point I was making was exactly this. Tactics change from one government to another. What works for one side may not work for another. So just because it happened in 2010 may not necessarily mean it's also the wisest strategy today. Is this strategy working for the opposition was the question I was asking. I want to go quickly across. I request all of you to stay with me. I want to quickly go across to some breaking update we're getting from the India bloc meeting that is taking place. Now, sources are telling us that Arvind Kejriwal, Delhi Chief Minister, at one point proposed the name of Mallikarjun Kharge, the Congress chief, as the prime ministerial face for this bloc. To which Mr. Kharge has said that right now they should focus on the elections and not on the face. The India bloc has also condemned the suspension of 141 MPs and passed a resolution on the same. The United Opposition Alliance is going to kickstart its joint campaign, we are being told, for 2024 general elections on January 30. These are updates coming in. My colleague Shireen Elizabeth is bringing us more. Shireen, tell us more of what happened as far as the prime ministerial phase debate is concerned.
Well, both Arvind Kejriwal, because more information we are getting right now is that not just Arvind Kejriwal, but also Mamata Banerjee, the West Bengal Chief Minister, proposed the name of Mallikarjun Kharge as the prime ministerial face of the India Alliance. But the sources have been suggesting that Mallikarjun Kharge politely declined this and told everyone that right now the focus needs to be winning the election. The face of the PM of the alliance can be decided much later. We need to win seats. And that is the priority. Now, apart from that, there is going to be a joint election campaign that will begin by 30th January. And most importantly, it was decided in the meeting that by the first week of January, the entire seat sharing process need to be completed. It will start from the state unit level. And in case there is any difficulty, the leaders of the alliance will be guiding the state units to go ahead and come up with a formula for seat sharing.
All right, Sharon, thanks a lot. Important update coming in. Seat sharing has been the bone of contention for this India bloc. Are they going to be able to come to an agreement in 300, 400 of parliamentary seats to have a joint candidate against the BJP is a big question mark. Since I have our political guests with me, let me quickly take a quick response from them. Shazia Ilmi, Arvind Kejriwal proposing Mr. Kharge's name as the prime ministerial face, but Mr. Kharge not so keen on it right now.
Well, with Kejriwal, you don't know what's coming. You don't even know how Bhagwant Mann and other cadres would receive or take to Kejriwal suggesting Mallikarjun Kharge's name. And also, it could just be a ploy on the part of Arvind Kejriwal to create some kind of issues for Khargeji, knowing very well that
within
he
the
would
Congress,
not be the choice even of the Congress party. So I think, as always, he's being a bit too clever by half and playing games and toying a little bit with Congress party when he suggests Mallikarjun.
I have to give you an opportunity to respond to that because Congress chief Mallikarjun Kharge's name has supposedly been thrown up by not just Arvind Kejriwal but could be, as sources say, by Mamata Banerjee as well. But this should come as a compliment to the Congress party, right? After the recent election results, there was a question mark if Congress will be acceptable as a slightly, a slight big brother of the alliance or the glue that holds the alliance together. It seems at least two parties are giving you the vote of confidence.
I would say, Shivani, such as the stature of the statesman that we are talking about here, Mr. Kharge, he's so many times he's been in a people's representative, be it an MLA or an MP, and I think he's a person of substance. So I think if it is coming up, it is only rightful. But the dignity of the man is that like how just like any other Democrat would do, he has just said that this is secondary, can be decided at a later stage. Let's put people's issues first. Let's put the constitutional concerns first. So I think it's to be seen. It will be seen at the right time.
Okay, Manojit Mandal, we're being told Mamata Banerjee also in agreement. Do you think Congress face can lead this alliance? Do you need a prime ministerial face?
I think that will be decided definitely gradually. But at the moment, what we need to save the country, save the constitution, save the nation from BJP's almost fascist aggression, which I think are on the anvil. We can see it, And you're talking about the bipartisan chair of the president, vice president. I'm sorry, madam, they seem to be acting with a partisan fashion, and this has become a practice. And therefore, this mimic, I think, highly welcome. You should rather enjoy it in the chill, cold of Delhi weather instead of criticizing them.
Okay, I'll leave it to the public to decide, not for me to decide. I do thank all of our guests for joining us. Coming up after a very short break, we'll get you all about the IPL mini auctions 2024, who were the top buys and who were the players that the franchises broke the bank for. Is the World Cup flavour still very much ruling the roost as far as this auction is concerned? All of that with two special guests on the other side.
Hello, Moto.
Co-powered by
Welcome back. Let's get you the latest from the IPL mini auction today, throwing up two of the biggest buys ever in IPL history. And not surprisingly, it were the two Aussie pacers in Mitchell Starc and Pat Cummins that franchises broke the bank for. Now, in the ICC ODI World Cup recently, Starc had taken 10 wickets in 8 matches. Playing for RCB in IPL 2014, the left-arm quick emerged as amongst the leading wicket takers with 20 scalps. After the 2015 season, he took a break from IPL to manage his workload and international commitments. In 2018, Starc returned to the IPL, joining KKR. However, an unfortunate injury prevented him from making any appearances for the two-time champions. Now he's back with a bang. There's of course Pat Cummins on the other hand, who took the IPL by storm in 2020 when KKR secured his services for a whopping 15.5 crores, making him the most expensive overseas acquisition the league had seen at that time. Cummins lived up to the billing, picking up 12 wickets and contributing with the bat in the lower order, as we've seen him do recently as well. The 28-year-old started his 2021 IPL campaign with promise, spearheading the KKR pace attack with 9 wickets from 7 matches, but he pulled out of the UAE leg of the event because of the impending birth of his child and was subsequently not retained by the franchise for IPL 2022. So these two, of course, have stolen all the headlines, but let's also take a look at the top 10 buys of the day. Top of the charts, of course, KKR always going for the big pacers. They exactly knew what they wanted. They broke the bank for it and did not much else. 24.75 crores now is the top price for a player in the IPL auctions. Pat Cummins, he was the first one to set the stage scorching at 20.5 crores. Daryl Mitchell, the other star from the World Cup, from the Kiwis, he was backed by Chennai Super Kings for 14 crores. And he also has another Kiwi partner. But before that, Harshal Patel, 11.75 crores went to the Punjab Kings side. Now, RCB were a little bit under the weather of sorts as far as this auction is concerned. They didn't really go for much. The one man they did go for was Joseph. And he has been bought, Alzari Joseph has been bought by the RCB for 11.5 crores. There is Samir Rizvi, won by the CSK for 8.4 crores. Rovman Powell was the first big buy of the day, going for 7.5 crores to Rajasthan Royals. So from a base price of 1 to 7.4, not a bad day at the office for him. Travis Head, the other Aussie who really set the stage alight as far as the World Cup final is concerned. A moderate price for him, not really breaking the bank. SRH Sunrisers bagging him for 6.8. Some would say this is a pretty good price for him. And there were other Indians who bagged top price as well. Shivam Mavi from the LSG went to LSG for 6.4 crores. Umesh Yadav has also gone to Gujarat Titans, who didn't really buy much today. We'll talk about them in just a bit, for 5.8 crores. The question we ask with our experts joining us in just a bit is just this: is the World Cup flavour still ruling the roost in the IPL auction? Let's go across to our guest joining us, Graham Swan, former English cricketer, former World Cup expert here on CNN News 18. Also, Mike Hesson, IPL expert, GeoCinema, is joining us. Mike, let me begin with you. Did you feel that there was clearly this World Cup flavour still hanging around, witnessed today in the auction?
Yeah, I think there's absolutely a recency bias to a degree, but it was also in Indian conditions, so it made sense. You know, previous World Cups when they weren't in India, that same recency bias was there, so at least that made some sense. Obviously, from an Australian perspective, we knew Cummins and Starc were going to go for plenty. There wasn't too many other options, in that space. Travis Head was, you can't do much better than do what he did towards the back end of the World Cup. And Daryl Mitchell, he got that because of the 100 he got at Wankhede against India. Obviously very much in focus. So yeah, without doubt, that certainly played a part.
Graham, what do you think? Clearly, the World Cup performance is still hanging heavy, although the franchises by now are extremely smart to not confuse the 50-over format to T20. But clearly, the Aussies were in great demand.
Absolutely, and also you have to take into account, especially with those big Aussie fast bowlers, there's not a lot else out there.
Yes.
And when there's only 2 of them and the franchise is desperate for fast bowlers, that's always going to happen. So it's no surprise that that the money's gone like that. To be fair, I feel for Pat Cummins a little bit because he breaks the record. He's the most expensive player ever, and then about an hour later, his mate does it straight back to him. So I've heard the Aussies have got a WhatsApp group. I'm surprised they can all type, to be honest, the Aussies. But there you go. And they're all ribbing them, saying you got to buy us dinner. I've never seen an Aussie put his hand in his pocket and buy food for anyone, but apparently those boys are going to do it now. So definite recency bias because of that World Cup. The only issue I have slightly is the fact that was a 50-over World Cup, and this is T20. But you know, there's a lot of very astute cricket minds in that auction room. There's one or two bits of emotion flying in as well. That's why the prices are going so high. But I think all the franchises will have done their homework.
Not such a great day for the English, isn't it? The Aussies are in great demand, not so much the English. That's also a recency factor.
That's right. You can pick an English player up in the bargain basement at the minute, can't you? They're like like when you're walking out of a petrol station. There's a basket at the end of all the rubbish that no one wants anymore, and all the England players
it's
seem
not
to be
that
in
bad.
there. But, yeah, but they're of course. I mean, the showing that England put up at the World Cup was such that. I mean, the players, the guys who are, you know, mid-contract, people like Josh Butler must be so relieved. At least he's got a gig next year. Some of the others will be looking over their shoulder thinking, I might not even have a county contract, let alone an IPL gig. So it's been a bad day so far. I mean, there's still one or two to go
two
up
of
in
them.
the auction.
There's, of
And
course,
you never know when...
Harry Brook, who had to obviously, whose price was adjusted by quite a bit. Chris Wokes also went for a decent price, but these were the only two really big names from the English team. Mike, you also see that all-rounders really do continue to be the most in demand. That's what we've seen, that pattern we've seen today as well.
Yeah, without doubt. I mean, it allows you to balance your squad, and from an overseas perspective, and even from a Harshal Patel perspective, you know, that changes the whole shape of Punjab Kings. You know, he's a 4-over bowler. He can bat at 8. It means they don't have to play either Ellis or Curran. It gives them a whole heap of options. So you add that to Stark, who can contribute with the bat towards the back end, as can Cummins, and they're high-value players. You know, whether they're 20, 24 and a half crore is very much just based to supply and demand. And obviously we saw some extreme examples today.
You know, since I have you, I do have to begin by asking you about Bangalore. Now, they've not really done much as far as this auction is concerned. Only Alzari Joseph bought at 11.5. So strengthening their bowling, Yash Dayal bought for 5 crores. And then really nothing else. What do you make of their strategy? Mike.
Well, I think they were stuck. I mean, they obviously wanted Mitchell Stark. And as soon as Mitchell Stark came out on the 4th set, that changed everybody's method in terms of how they could go about it. So they had a good dip at Pat Cummins, obviously went to 20.25, which was as far as they could go. And he was probably their second best option. Then they realised that Gujarat and KKR could outbid them come towards the 4th set. So they had to pick someone. They were either going to go Lockie Ferguson or Alzari Joseph. But I do think that if they were going to go Alzari Joseph, they should have gone Shardul Thakur earlier on because they knew they could have had plenty of purse. Now they're a little bit stuck in terms of what their options are. So it was a difficult auction for RCB based on the auction order.
Yeah, let's talk about Delhi Capitals as well. Graham, they've obviously got this big prospect of Rishabh Pant, you know, coming back after his accident and playing for them, will continue to lead them. So that's a great plus for them. Other than that, Kumar Kushagra, they've bought Harry Brook, of course, for 4 crores. His price has adjusted. There's Rashik Salam for them. So, and Ricky Bhui. So not much, you know. What did you make of Delhi's strategy, for example? Do you think they already have enough and didn't really need to do much?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't panic, put it that way, and they've got Stubbs and Brook there, and then the Indian players as well. So it was a fairly quiet auction. I think it was one of those auctions where they think they've got pretty much all their bases covered. They don't want to go out and splash huge money on a bowler that they don't necessarily need, don't want to get caught up in the emotion of it. So, you know, Rishabh Pant is such a huge player for them. If he comes back, if and when he comes back fit and firing, he can build a team around him because he's so good with the gloves. He can captain and he can bat as well. What they need is one of these overseas players, Stubbs and Brook, to go in, hit the ground running, and be a superstar. I mean, Brook could turn out to be an absolute steal. He won't be the steal of the tournament because that is without doubt a CSK. Ravindra is unbelievably cheap.
Yes.
I cannot believe they've stolen him for such little money. But those are the sort of guys who are going to bat 3 or 4 for the franchise, who could easily have a stellar IPL, and then you can build a franchise team around those players. So yeah, it's been a fairly quiet day for Delhi, but you know, like I said, if there were 15 Australians who they could have bought, they probably would have done.
Mike, Sunrisers, they've really done well. Would you reckon? What do you think their chances could be this season? They also are looking for a turnaround of sorts. So they got Pat Cummins, of course. They also backed Travis Head. So how do you look at their balance now?
Oh, I think SRH have had an outstanding auction. I think to get Hasaranga and Cummins, both can contribute with the bat as well as the ball. Hasaranga might not play all the games. He might only play in conditions that suit where the ball might turn, and they've got the flexibility to do that at 1.5 crore. They've got the power of Travis Head at the top if they want to go down that path. It means that potentially Hayden Markram misses out. But they've got all bases covered. They've always had very strong Indian seamers with Bhuvi, Malik Natarajan, so that's never been an issue for them. They struggled with a wrist spinner, and the fact they've got Hasaranga, as I said, to come in, and he can bat as well. So they've got all bases covered. I think they've had an exceptional auction to date.
Yes, one of the other big surprises today was one, of course, Rachin Ravindra's price, 1.8 steal for Chennai, and then, of course, Hasaranga going only for his base price of 1.5. So another steal for Sunrisers. Mike, I do want to ask you about the other big team everybody's talking about, and that's Gujarat Titans. All eyes are on this team because of how strong they've been. They've lost Hardik Pandya, who's come back to Mumbai Indians, is their new captain, a lot going on there. But they've really only gone for, somebody like Umesh Yadav and Omar Zai. So what do you reckon? How good are they looking to be able to bounce back from losing such a figure as Hardik Pandya?
Oh, I think they'll have some regrets. I think there's no doubt they will. I mean, Harshal Patel, you can't go that far and then pull out and leave the auction with the amount of money they're going to have left over. It's the same as Pat Cummins, as Mitchell Starc. Like 24.75 is a huge amount of money, but there's no point taking it with you at the end of the auction and not having, a premier fast bowler. So I think they will have huge regrets. I mean, replacing Hardik Pandya is always going to be incredibly difficult. But they had options to do that so far in this auction. They haven't taken them.
What do you reckon, Graham? It's always tough, as Mike is saying, to lose somebody who's a talismanic captain, the future of Indian, shorter format as well, Hardik Pandya, and then they seemed like they didn't know exactly what to do today.
Yeah, a little bit fuddled by the whole thing. Hess is actually so right there. There's no point being left with it all in your pocket. And yes, people might roll their eyes and think, they've spent a lot on this player or that player. But once you've got the squad you need, regardless of how much you have to pay to get this player or that, it all balances out, and you have to walk away with the team and a squad that you're happy with. I can't think that Gujarat will be that happy at the moment. Maybe they've got an ace up their sleeve that we're not seeing. But, I mean, Pandya going back to Mumbai, Hardik, I mean, that is a huge loss because he's almost carried that franchise. His aura and his leadership has been spectacular since he's been at the Titans. So, I think they've had the worst day so far. Like I say, they may have an ace up their sleeve that we're not aware of yet, that we're not seeing in these names. But no one would have thought, go back 2 years, no one would have ever given Gujarat a chance or a shot at that title.
Yes.
To be as good as they have been over 2 seasons is testament to the fact that they do know what they're doing. They have got some good cricketing brains at the helm. So I'm going to just sit on the fence a little bit with them and say wait and see. But yeah, replacing Hardik, I think that's nigh on impossible at the minute. He is, especially in India, he is such a huge sort of burgeoning talent. He's just ready to step into Virat's shoes in a couple of years, I think.
Yes, it's not that they have a bad team. They've still got quite a bit of their purse left, to Mike's point, that where are you going to take this money to? But they've got, of course, the likes of Shubman Gill, they've got Tewatia, who can hit big, they've got Rashid Khan, Umesh Yadav they bought today, David Miller, they of course have Kane Williamson, Vidyaman Saha, and Omar Zaid they bought today. And yeah, I mean, Shah Rukh Khan, who's this young talent we've been talking about in India for quite some time, they actually broke the bank the most for him at 7.4 crores. Even Umesh Yadav was at 5.8. So I guess you're, again, an all-rounder getting big bucks in the auction today. So Mike, put your coach, your consultant hat on. At this stage, from what we've seen so far, who's emerging the best from this auction? A mini auction, so not too many trades or changes going on, but a lot of big names still went under the hammer today.
I think SRH, I think CSK, and I think Mumbai with getting Kutsia and Madashankar for less than 10 crore. I think those are the three teams that have had a very good auction so far. And I think from a balance perspective, they've sort of balanced out the bat with the ball as well. So I think those three sides are probably the best balanced at this stage.
Graham, what do you reckon as far as the balance of the teams is concerned?
I think Hess has hit the nail on the head there. Sunrisers have had an exceptional auction. The one team I am going to mention, you probably know who it is Rajasthan as well. Just quietly getting Dubey to Rajasthan. He was exceptionally good last year at CSK. Exceptionally talented at smashing spinners. Some of the pitches they play on, the low, slow wickets, will suit him. And they've got Rovman Powell, who I believe is the next Karen Pollard. He's sort of Karen Pollard in waiting. So they could have had a good auction. But yeah, Sunrisers for me have had an exceptional day. They've spent a lot of money, yes, but the key has hit the nail on the head earlier. Getting Hasaranga as well as Cummins, all of a sudden the balance in their squad looks exceptional.
Yeah, but we know from past experience, Swan, that it's not enough to have the team on paper. I mean, Bangalore is a classic example of that.
Absolutely. I mean, if it was down to the team on paper, England would be World Cup champions, but they finished bottom.
You're still on that.
So, you're absolutely right. It's all about who's and what's and who will at the minute. But on paper today, Sunrisers will be
very happy,
clinking their champagne glasses together tonight.
Absolutely.
Well, they won't,
thanks a lot, both of you, Graham Swan and Mike Hesson, for joining us here. And of course, do watch the auction live on Jio Cinema. It's time for me to take your leave. The Hard Facts is coming up next.
Viewers, they could well set up a parallel parliament. 141 opposition members of parliament have been suspended over the last 1 week ever since parliament was breached. Today was no different. And the way things are evolving, it is quite possible that parliament may be opposition mukt, as they are saying, soon. Critics of the Modi government are saying that the action taken by the custodians of both houses of parliament is unprecedented and reeks of vengefulness. The charge of vengefulness can be safely ruled out, though, viewers. There's little reason for the Modi government to cut the opposition down to size, certainly not after the deflating electoral hiding the Congress party and its cohorts in opposition got in the recently concluded round of assembly elections. While the breadth of the disciplinary action is certainly eye-catching, it is also not unprecedented, not the suspensions per se. Back in the day, 1989 to be precise, the Speaker of the Lok Sabha suspended 63 MPs in a flash.